In everybody, checking in with you on a Sunday night. It is June the 9th. So excited to be with you as we are rolling into a new week here. Want to hear all about your weekend. We had our emergency live stream last night that came on about getting pulled over twice in one day. Today, we're going to keep it a little more practical, a little less on the emotional, philosophical side, more on the practical, and really just trying to help people who are getting started for how to make good decisions in the food delivery world, especially on uh, meal delivery. So UberEats, DoorDash, Grubhub. Okay, so and there's other similar apps like that, but those are probably the three biggest ones, at least in my market. So we want to take some time, and I wrote down six main points that I'm going to cover tonight. So, six main points of things that I wish I knew before I started that I want to share with you. We want to encourage anyone and everyone, whether you're watching this live or on replay. First of all, thank you for sharing your time with us. But we want to encourage you to add things that you wish you knew before you started doing gig delivery work. Some of these things would apply to uh, Instacart and Shipped, but not everything would apply to some of those shopping type of apps because you will put more miles on generally if you're just doing restaurant delivery than if you're doing shop and pay type of orders and delivery services. Because you're paid in those instances as much for the shopping as you are for the delivery. It's all part of it, but you can often get a higher payout for lesser miles when you're doing Instacart and Shipped and similar apps like that. But some of those principles will probably work for that as well. So this is kind of designed to be a beginner's guide if you are looking to get into the food delivery world of some some things that I wish I knew before I started. And so I'm going to go over my 6 points, and then we'll take our little drink break and then take all questions and comments. So you can start posting them in the chat as you come on in. Any questions and comments you have, whether you're brand new to gig delivery work or not, but want to take some time to do that. So, six things, six things, and there's probably more than these six, but here's six things that I wish I knew before I started delivering for DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub. Number one, you need to start with cash on hand for car repairs. Okay. I cannot stress enough how much I wish I had done this from the start, especially if you're starting with a beater car in the first place that has technical issues or is prone to technical issues. Um, if you're a Dave Ramsey fan, Dave will start by saying you should have $1,000 in your emergency fund. Okay. I would say you should have an additional $1,000 in your car emergency fund from the start before you even start. The wear and tear that your car takes, even if you drive responsibly, even if you're not getting into accidents, the amount of times that to keep your car up to date that you should be doing oil changes, that you will need to replace brakes, that things are going to go out on your car. And again, especially if you're starting with a car that's not in the greatest shape in the first place. Okay, so if you're starting with a semi decent car that's in good repair, maybe you could have a little bit less on hand, and but the frequency with which you're going to do oil changes, how much you're going to have. Uh, Hold on one second here. Let's see. Trying to. Please don't spam our chat. Please don't spam our chat. Let's see. We're just going to do that for now. All right, we're trying to keep the chat open so you guys can talk and participate, but please don't spam it. So I'm going to go through. So first thing, you need to have cash on hand for car repairs. If you're starting with absolutely nothing, then I would recommend that the first $500 to $1,000 that you clear from doing food delivery, that you set it aside right from the start, because those car repairs are going to come. And if you're doing this any more than, say, 5 to 10 hours a week, they're going to come quickly. If you're trying to do this full time, they're going to come really, really quickly. So I wish I knew from the start to have not just your normal emergency fund, but if this is an essential part of your income from the beginning, like this isn't just like fun money and doing that. And a side thing that I would say, if at all possible, you should have two vehicles when you're doing this. You should have a delivery vehicle and then have your separate vehicle, especially if it's more than just you as a single person. If you've got a family. We're doing this right now with one vehicle, and it's rough because when we have to do things and we have to go separate places, when we have to do that, it cuts into my delivery time. So time I could be delivering, then I have to be dropping off or picking people up. And we've got a whole bunch of that going on this week because we've got baseball stuff and we've got church things and then we've got delivery stuff all going on at the same time. This is really difficult to do if you have more than one person in your household and you need to go separate places and you only have one vehicle. So a second vehicle is kind of like part B to this, but cash on hand for car repairs beyond your normal emergency fund, whatever it is. And I would recommend 500 to 1,000, or setting aside the first 500 to $1,000 you make. So that way, when you get whammied with something like a brake repair or like a thing that's broken, and especially if you are starting with a beater car that is going to be prone to repairs in the first place, like some things you can put off for a little bit, right? Like if you don't need air conditioning in winter, but you need brake lights. You're going to be out there all the time, and you don't want to be getting pulled over all the time. Like I got pulled over twice yesterday. If you missed that live stream, you can go back and watch that. Yeah. The second thing that I wish I had really made a good determination of, and in retrospect, I probably would have done differently, is you need to really decide if you are full-time or part-time in this. Um, I think there are some basic things that you should invest in either way, like a pizza bag. We have an affiliate link to our favorite pizza bag in the description below. You can just click through that, look at it, search Amazon for some other options. Like I think you should do a pizza bag regardless. Okay, I think you should have a wagon with you, especially if you're doing any form of like Instacart or Shipt and you're doing large grocery orders. And I've even used my wagon for some really big, restaurant orders as well. However, the mindset that you take doing this as, I'm going to go out for lunch and supper time, or I'm just going to deliver for supper time 5, 6, 7 days a week for 2 to 3 hours, and you're going to do this like 2 to 3 hours a day. That's a completely different mindset than I'm trying to work 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I'm trying to make this my primary income, my full-time income. I would recommend, and I would say probably in many markets, it's difficult, if not impossible, to make this your primary income. And I would recommend that you seriously consider other options before you try to make food delivery your primary income. I'm not saying it can't be done because I don't know your market. I feel like my market is really good and it is still very, very difficult to do that. Okay, so it is super difficult to make this your full-time primary income. I think it's a great supplemental income. I think $50 to $100 a day if you're doing like supper into maybe some late night rushes, or if you're going to do things like going to deliver Instacart and lunch rush, work from say 10 to 1 and then 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, $100 to $150 a day is fairly reasonable. And if you can, extrapolate that out to 7 days a week, 700, maybe you can scratch out 4,000 a month that way if you're going to do it 7 days a week. And maybe you can live on 4,000 a month if you're just a single person and you don't have a high rent, or you already own, you have a paid off home. In those situations, maybe you can make that work. But it's a lot different when you're dependent on this income stream as your primary income stream, because you can do everything right and you can still have a day where you just get absolutely skunked and you get nothing, or you see no good orders, and you can move around and but you'll have days where you're going to just spend more on gas than you take in. Like, I get it, we make some of those fun challenge videos here, but those challenge videos, we're researching ahead of time to say when's going to be the best time to do this, when is going to be the optimal time, what's our like that. There's a lot of planning that goes into those videos to even give it a shot of making those things happen. They're not just random things, and they can't be replicated every single day of the week, every single day of the year. That's not how this works. There are plenty of days where you're just grinding to get to whatever your goal is. And you can have a goal of $25 an hour, but the reality is you can't control all of that. You can only control some of your decision making process, but you can't control what stuff comes to your phone. And I'm a believer. We mentioned this, the conspiracy. I'm a believer that if you start getting too much on any one of these apps at one time, they will just kind of start to slow you down. Now if they're super busy and they're trying to get caught up because of whatever, sure, they'll send you things and they'll keep you busy. But I do tend to think, like, every once in a while they'll send you a great day, but it's hard to do this consistently as a full-time job. So I would encourage you to start it as a part-time thing, um, or as a temporary. So, like, temporary full-time, in other words, let's say you just found out you lost your job and you need income tomorrow. That's one thing. But, in the meantime, still keep working on other things. It is just difficult to do full-time. And there's no two ways about it. It's hard to do when you're dependent on that. And which is why we want to encourage you to have multiple income streams and be building off of that. So have cash on hand for car repairs, and ideally be using a second car. So that way, if yours has to go in the shop, you're not stuck for lack of mobility. And then make a decision if you want to be full-time or part-time when you begin this. The third point that I want to say is, where you deliver to is way more important than you think. In fact, I would argue that it is to the same level as things like dollars per hour and dollars per mile is where your delivery location is at. Your dollars per mile don't mean anything if you have to double all those miles to get back to a good restaurant. And early on, I didn't realize this. I would just see like $20 for 15 miles. Like, hey, I can get that done in like a half an hour. That's not a big deal. But if by the time I drive those 15 miles, if I have to drive 15 miles back to get my next delivery, then all of a sudden my half an hour turns into an hour and it's shot. So you need to learn your zones, and this comes with time. But just by being somewhat familiar with your area, like, is there even a shot at me getting a decent order somewhere around here? Now, I think sometimes I've probably been too picky on the other side, where I have not taken orders that were maybe close to some restaurants, but not my favorite restaurants. And I would kind of be like, maybe, and I would do that. So there's probably sometimes I've been too picky, but most of the time when I've gotten in trouble with having my dollars per hour not be to the level that I want it to be and different things like that, most of the time it's because I just picked a poor delivery location. And so if you're gonna take something somewhere that isn't a great drop-off location, you have a plan to get back to a good delivery area as quickly as possible, and then work to start eliminating some of those poor delivery areas from your zone, because otherwise it's just tons of wasted time on the road. And it's easy to see a big number for a kind of big number of miles without really realizing what the repercussions are, because if it knocks you out from getting another delivery for another half an hour after you deliver, then it's probably not as good as maybe it looks on the screen. So technically your dollars per mile is good, right? Maybe you're $1.50, $1.75 a mile. But if you have to double those miles back, now you're 80 cents a mile, 90 cents a mile. And that really eats up, especially if it's in the heart of a main delivery window, like a supper time or a lunchtime. I'm a little more likely to take orders like that in the middle of the afternoon. Um, but again, that kind of goes back to your full time versus part time, which is, I would say, if you don't need to be full time, just focus on the key delivery windows and just have them mastered at the best way that you possibly can. I'll give you one example from my night tonight. I only had a 2-hour delivery window. Basically, I had from about 5:30 to 7:30. I had a little leeway on that, but 5:30 to 7:30, and I was not in one of my favorite areas. But instead of driving to my favorite area and wasting 20 minutes to get there plus 20 minutes to end, on to get back, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the best place that I can right now and just kind of set up camp there. And my 2 hours, about 2 hours and 20 minutes, I was able to work out $70 in deliveries multi-apping by knowing where a few key places were and just sticking to that zone and sticking to only deliveries that kept me as close to that zone as possible. And so I was able to keep the deliveries rolling. And it was like a $10 Instacart followed by a $10 DoorDash followed by a $13 Uber Eats, and then I think I had a $17 DoorDash, and I had a $20 Instacart at the end. But the only reason I was able to get that done is because none of my delivery locations brought me way off into anywhere else, and I didn't have to waste any time driving to an area that had better restaurants or driving back from it. And so I was able to maximize those hours. And so when we talk about like trying to make $25 an hour, you could probably get pretty close to that consistently in my market if you only did supper times. The hard part is, how do you grind out $25 an hour at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday when there's just not a lot of stuff? And that's where it gets difficult. But if you can focus on a small zone and a small delivery area and don't take anything that takes you way far away unless the money is just so overwhelmingly good, like $3 a mile or $4 a mile, that if you have to do the drive back, it's not a big deal. Like, I'll do that for an Instacart. I took like an Instacart like 20 miles the other day because it was $80. And in the end, I was able to get the whole thing done in 2 hours. So I still made $40 an hour. Um, so, but the pay there was so good, $4 a mile. So even though I had a lot of dead miles, it didn't cut into that. Okay, so have cash on hand for repairs, and ideally have a second car. Make your determination if you're going to try this as full-time or part-time, and we highly, highly recommend part-time. Your key hours, where you deliver, number 3, where you deliver is way more important than you think, up along the same tier as dollars per hour, dollars per mile. Okay, number 4. Okay, and this is something we're big on this channel, and I will get to all your comments here in a little bit. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I would just let me know as we're going through these things, what are some things that you are learning about delivery and all those different things. So customer service matters. Number 1 of our 4-step process for being the best we can be in gig delivery world, small business world, starting our own business, is serve. We want you, and I want myself, to be a premium servant when I choose to take these delivery things. And there are lots of things. Hey, please don't spam the chat. We always go through our teaching points first here, and then I respond to all comments afterwards in a little bit. So just leave a comment, and I will get to everything in a little bit. We're trying to leave the chat open. But please don't spam the chat so we can leave it open and free for as long as possible as we grow this channel. Okay, customer service matters. And so let me give you some basic things. If you don't really know where to start for customer service, eye contact. Okay, eye contact. Just looking someone in the eyes. And for some of you, maybe that's a little difficult. Maybe that's kind of a new thing to do. But I think that's a good thing. Letting your customers know if there's anything unexpected that's come up. And I've shared this many times, and I'll continue to share it. Most of the times that I've received increased tips, especially on DoorDash it's hard to know on Uber Eats sometimes, but on DoorDash especially, is when not when everything goes well, but when something goes wrong. And just by keeping them in the loop, hey, this is where I'm at, because they're wondering things like, are you even there? Are you actually waiting? And so I have like a simple message that I just say like, hello, I'm waiting at the restaurant for you, but your order's not quite ready yet. I'll let you know when I'm on the way. And about half the time you get no response, but like I used that tonight for one of my deliveries. It was like my $17 DoorDash. It was a Pizza Hut order. I didn't know it was 17 at the time. I just knew it was 10 plus. Um, but I just sent the message and they just said, okay, thanks. And then I said, I'm on my way. And then they gave like a thumbs up or whatever. Yeah. Some basic customer service skills. If you if you don't know the primary language in your market, at least learn a couple of basic customer service phrases, or the even simpler way with all of this is just use Google Translate. I've done that multiple times. If I'm dealing with someone who speaks Spanish, I've tried to pick up and learn some Spanish, but I certainly can't type Spanish. I can do some little basic conversational Spanish. So I'll just put things, translate from English to Spanish. Okay. But just keeping in the loop. Now, I don't think you need to over communicate. I think if everything is going well, there's no wait, there's no delay. Um, I wouldn't worry about it. I do generally, if I'm going to do a meet the customer, I'll generally give them my ETA from my end, because I'll use another GPS app other than what's in there. So I use Waze most of the time. It seems to be the most accurate with traffic delays. It doesn't always get the final delivery location the greatest, but the general traffic. So I'll have it in Waze so I can say, hey, just a heads up, you know, I'm on my way, but I'm taking a different route because there's an accident here, or my route might look a little bit weird because I'm avoiding this, and sometimes you're faster than even Waze, because like all the times where I've seen like an accident just happened and it hasn't backed up yet, but I'll know on my way back, like I need to avoid that area because I know it's going to be crowded and backed up. And so just some basic customer service skills, also basic customer service skills, and this may be just as important, if not as important, with the restaurant workers. Um, you don't have to be best friends with these restaurant workers, but I see a lot of delivery drivers locally who just shove a phone in their face, don't say hi. They're like demanding, and I don't understand like how that benefits anything. And there are probably days where I come across a little more brash than I should, and I'm not as friendly as I should be. But I try to do my best. Like today, I was like, my headspace wasn't the greatest, but I would take a deep breath every time before I went into a restaurant, and then every time before I got to the customer. And just, I told myself, and I had to tell myself, like, what's going on in my head right now should have no deterrence on how I treat this customer, how I treat this restaurant worker, this store employee. And I had to do that. And like, I was like, okay, I'm not feeling like in my own selfish nature, I'm not feeling like being nice and friendly right now. And some people say like fake it till you make it out. For me, I like to think faith it. I'm just gonna trust that I know what the right thing to do is here, even if I don't feel like it. And so I would just literally just go. Did that a couple of times tonight, and sometimes I'll even do the double breath in. Like if you get. By the way, this is just like a little side life hack. If you're like really stressed, um, or frustrated or different things, you can do that. I'll act with that. I know it's going to look really silly on camera, but it's like. So you breathe in as much as you can on the first breath, but before you exhale, breathe in a second time. And it's actually like a calming thing. And sometimes I'll do that 2 or 3 times, and it kind of slows your heart rate, calms your mind, refocuses you on what you need to do. And so sometimes you may not feel like giving good customer service, even if you're only doing this part time, even if it's just for a couple hours, because maybe you had a bad day at your other job, or maybe the previous customer treated you poorly, or you just found out you got tip baited. None of those things matter to the next customer, right? The person that you're delivering to isn't going to be like, oh, well, the last customer tip baited you, so that gives you a right to treat me like a jerk. Like, no, that's That doesn't matter. So you have to put that off to the side. Your customer service matters. And the more friendly you are, and especially on the apps like Instacart, this is like, if your customer service isn't good on Instacart, you're missing out. Because I'm telling you, you're missing out on extra tips on a regular basis. At least in my market, on a regular basis, I get bumps and tips after deliveries just for whatever the customer service is, be it putting their cold food in a cooler, putting their hot food in a hot bag. You know, this is like super simple, but like, let's say you get a Costco order and they order the chickens from the back. Or yesterday I had someone ordered the ribs from the deli, the hot ribs from Costco. Put it in a hot bag. Like, most likely, the odds are if they're ordering hot food, they're planning on eating it as soon as they receive it. So just think about the basic customer service, the old phrase, right? The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Just think about, like, how would you want your food delivered? You know, basic things. And I know we're not talking too much about like Instacart, but there's shop and pay orders now. Like, you can get Costco orders on Uber Eats, and DoorDash is increasing their shop and pay orders. There's a lot of opportunities that you have to provide customer service for people, and so it does matter. Okay, so four things. We got two more, and then we'll get to all comments. So let me know do you have any questions, or if you're like new into this gig delivery world, do you have any questions? And this is whether live or replay. If you're on replay, you can still add comments, and I will come back and answer them as I see them pop up on my end. Okay, four things so far: have cash on hand for car repairs over and above your normal um, emergency fund. So if you have $1,000 in your normal emergency fund, I would take your first 500 to 1,000, make yourself a car emergency fund, and also have a second car on hand if at all possible, especially if you're more than one person. Make the decision whether you're going to do this full time or part time to start with. Where you deliver is more important than you think, like your final delivery location. Make sure you're close to a place where you can get other deliveries. Customer service matters. All right, hold on one second here. Oh, I have an itchy nose tonight. I don't know why. I feel like I have allergies, even though I don't have allergies. It just feels like allergies tonight. Um, Two more things. Optimum strategy takes time. You have to learn your market. Okay. One of the reasons and one of the ways that you're going to really get better at knowing where to delivers, it's going to take you a while to really learn your market. I delivered out of my normal area today and yesterday, both, and it was like, wow, how many mistakes I made going into a new area. Now, I'm not saying don't go into a new area. I'm just saying, when you're new to this, you're gonna make mistakes, and a lot of them are just simple things. Like, it looks like, oh, I think I should turn here for the restaurant, and you realize, oh, I already passed the turn, or I turned in too early. I did that like 3 or 4 times yesterday. Just turned at the wrong place, wrong time. Just totally biffed it because I was delivering in an area that I wasn't comfortable with. Sometimes going or trying to find in, or we have lots of gated communities here where you can only enter in one entrance. And of course, a lot of the customers don't tell you what that entrance is. And the only way you're going to find it is by doing and going to the wrong entrance, and sometimes 2 or 3 times. And then after a while, you'll start to be like, okay, I know this street. And then you pull out the map and you're like, I know no matter what the GPS says, don't follow the GPS to that. You've got to go this way. And, so it just takes time to learn your market. And then there's other things like learning. You're just going to play the odds. There's no guarantees, but there are going to be restaurants that tend to have higher tipping customers. There are going to be areas in your community where higher tipping customers tend to live. And so as you're just trying to play the odds to give yourself the best chance of success. But so I would encourage you, start with what you think, right? Like, don't overthink it from the beginning. But then also, it's important to not get in a rut. And it's also important that even if you think you know something, that you go back and try some of your other failed areas every once in a while. Okay, so I had that the other night. I had one of my areas that normally provides low to no tipping orders, I just made a decision like, okay, it was getting late and I was close to my goal. I'm like, instead of turning off DoorDash, which I would normally do in this area, and heading 10 minutes back to downtown and wasting all that time, so I'm going to leave it on for one order and I'm going to take it no matter what, good, bad, ugly, because I was on earned by time. I'm going to take it. And I had kind of some negative thoughts in my head. And of course, I got an order and I took it and I dropped it off. And I was like, you know, like, you know how you get like when you just already assume that I dropped it off and it was like a $10 tip for like a single burrito from Chipotle. And I was like, I was humbled, right? Because I prejudged that because generally my Chipotle customers are lower tippers, and generally the area that I was delivering to is a lower tipping zone. And so I just kind of prejudged. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, well, I'll leave it on for one more. And I did another one in that what I consider a lower tipping zone, and it had like a $7 tip on it. And so you need to go back every once in a while and just see if things have changed. You know, for a restaurant area, has like we had a restaurant that really good restaurant, high orders, good tipping people, and I didn't get any of their orders for like 3 weeks. And I eventually avoided them, and then randomly out of nowhere I got an order from them, and I had even checked and they weren't even on the apps. Well, it turns out they were doing renovations and they were closed for 3 weeks. So of course I'm not going to get orders from them if they were closed, or at least I don't know if they were closed, but they were at least closed to DoorDash orders and everything like that. So you've got to you've got to understand that you have a market and you have your favorite restaurants and different things, but things are always changing. Things are seasonal. People's personal economics are changing. Which apps people use are constantly changing, and you've got to, once you get in a groove, use your groove, but you need to step out of that comfort zone every once in a while. Okay. One more point that I'm going to make here, and then we'll get to what we're drinking tonight and all your comments and questions. So this is designed to be a beginner's guide. If you've never or you just started doing food delivery on DoorDash, UberEats, Grubhub, trying to put together some of the things I wish I knew before I started. Have cash on hand for car repairs over and above your emergency fund, and try to have a second vehicle as well if there's more than one person. Consider full-time versus part-time. Your final delivery location is more important than you think. Customer service matters, and your optimum strategy takes time, and you learn your market and constantly be relearning your market. And lastly, every penny matters. Okay? Every penny matters. One of the things I've started adding into some of my videos is anytime I find coins on the ground, I pick them up. Right? It's just kind of something my family does. It's just kind of like I always heard as a kid, like you should only pick up a penny if it's on heads, because then it's lucky. And like, hey, if I find a penny, I consider myself lucky, so I just pick it up. And I I don't mean this in the sense of like to the extreme penny pinching sort of thing, like you should be demanding customers tip you. That's not what I mean by this. What I mean is you need to look to optimize as much as you possibly can for everything that you do. So let me give you a couple of things I would recommend. One, if you're using DoorDash especially, and you get a double order, you're picking up from two different places or dropping off at two different places, either one, you don't have to go in the order that it's assigned to you if there's a faster way for you to do it. Okay. So let's say you're picking up from restaurant A and restaurant B and then delivering to customer A and customer B. You can go within the DoorDash and you can jump. If you're already sitting in the parking lot for restaurant B, you don't need to drive over to restaurant A to go pick it up and then go get it. You can pick up the restaurant B order first, pick that up, get it, then go to A and then deliver the customers in whatever order that you want. One of the other things I've done too is sometimes one of the two customers will be in a slightly better delivery zone. Like customer A might be in a better delivery zone than customer B. And so as long as you're not, going to be delivering outside of your suggested time frame, I'll sometimes do the customer that's just a little bit further away and away from a good delivery zone first. So maybe it costs me a couple minutes on the front end, but then I'll be set to get a good order right away on the back end. And so you want to think about these things. You want to think about what are ways that I can cut off 1 or 2 miles driving here, because that makes a difference, because that's 1 or 2 miles less wear and tear on your car, 1 or 2 miles less of gas that you're burning. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you're constantly looking to optimize everything that you're doing, then do that. Also, another thing that helps with every penny counts, read the notes. Okay? It hasn't been many times, but there have been a couple of times that in the notes it'll say something like, hey, guess what? There's a tip for you under the doormat, or I left a tip for you over on the table off to the side, you know, go get it. And if you're not paying attention and reading the notes every single time, you might miss a $5, $10 tip. Like that's what you're doing. Or if it's a meet the customer and you don't, different things like that. Like just be aware of what's going on and what the customer's trying to tell you. And there's a couple other ways we highly recommend here getting cash back for your gas using the Upside app. I've got an affiliate link, and we actually have a challenge going on now that with me and those of you who are partnering with me, we are trying to make as much cash back on gas as we can. I'm actually trying to get $540, trying to pay off an entire credit card with just cash back from Upside gas for gas that I was already buying anyway. And so there is an affiliate link that you can sign up for, so you get cash back on gas and I get cash back. And the most recent offer I saw is you get a bonus $5 added to your account for your first fill up, in addition to whatever dollars per gallon the gas station is offering you. Get a bonus $5 added to your account. And so you can do that. I don't know how long that offer is going to last. It's the best offer I've seen so far. Usually they're like an extra 10 cents a gallon, which, that's good, but that's not $5 worth of gas for most of you. Most of you aren't running 50-gallon tanks. So there's that. And we'll actually have the newest, I'll do a channel update, but that video will probably be coming out at the end of this week, our next update on that. So if you want to be in that video as one of our referrals for Upside, you make sure you get signed up and get one tank. You have to sign up and get a tank filled up and processed using the Upside app to get in the video. So you can show up in one of my upcoming videos if you do that. Okay, so cash on hand for repairs, full-time versus part-time. Your final delivery area is more important than you think. Customer service matters. Optimum strategy takes time. Learn your market and constantly relearn your market, and every penny matters. So question today is, what are you drinking tonight? And tonight I am drinking more of this Bai Wonder Water. I actually learned after the fact last night that it's caffeinated water. So I definitely need the caffeine tonight too. Comment down below, what are you drinking tonight? I'm going to go ahead and go read and get caught up on comments. Pumbaa, hello. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Our car on our channel is always a 2004 Pontiac Vibe. That is the car of the channel. So we'll always name that on him. Hi, welcome. You'll sub if I say your name. I don't even think you're still in here, but if you are, I certainly appreciate it. And Braden, hey, thanks so much for those hands. I couldn't tell if they were hands or hand turkeys because going kind of buggy. So I would love to hear, for those of you if you have any questions about getting started doing restaurant delivery work. The concept of it is really simple and really easy. And to do it for a couple hours during the mealtime is kind of good. But of course, there are trade-offs to it. And the trade-offs include the wear and tear on your car. I've ended up missing, a good chunk of meals with my family too, because when we want to eat is the same time that other people want to eat. And so we've had to be creative to get more family mealtime in because of the nature of just delivering during supper time and lunchtime and stuff like that. So that's also kind of a side thing to consider with it. But I would highly, if you're looking, I would say if you're looking for an extra, what do we say? $300 to $500 a week, like extra over and beyond, and you have a normal day job. So you get a job, you work your 9 to 4, 9 to 5 type of job, and you're looking, how can I get an extra $50 every day? Because we talk about this on this channel. If you get an extra $50 in profit, now that might be like $75 worth of delivery, but if you could make an extra $50 a day every day for 9 months, that's over $10,000 that you can make. And so it's a really great opportunity, and I think that opportunity exists and probably will exist for a decent amount of time. The opportunity to do this full time, to be making, $2,000 plus a week, I don't know if it's past completely, but I bet most markets that would be pretty hard to do while maintaining any sort of decent schedule. I mean, if you're willing to work 90 hours a week, you could probably do it. Okay. But if you're really trying to make, $25 an hour, what is that? That's $2,000 at 25, like 80 hours a week, and averaging $25 an hour. It's going to be hard to do. Like, even if you're like, I'm doing this as a double job, right? I think you're better off exploring other ways to exponentially increase your income. And we're going to start building into that on this channel here as well. Ways to take the money that you're making, but reinvest into something that's going to grow, as opposed to just, I'm making money and I'm spending it and there's nothing to be shown for it. So as a side hustle, food delivery, restaurant delivery, I think is a great side hustle. But I just think the reality is, for most of you in most markets, to try to do this as a full-time, $1,000 plus a week consistently, it's going to be hard to do. And I say that coming from a market that I consider is a good market, and it's hard to do sometimes here. And so that's just kind of my caution to you. I'm not telling you not to do it. I just want to give you the reality of it. This is the reality behind some of the fun videos that we make. But I think if you take these 6 things that we talked about here today and you put them into practice right from the beginning, you're going to know a whole lot quicker if this is something for you. Okay. And so I think I may actually record this as a separate video too, with these 6 points at some point here, because I think this is a really good beginner's guide. And we're kind of doing more in a chatting, casual manner here tonight. But I really just want to say, like, hey, I think you can do this. I think it's worth giving a try. Give it a try. Follow these basic principles and see if it gives you a good jump start. And then you can kind of make the determination as to what you're really looking for long term here. Is this something that you really want to do as a full-time thing for the next 10, 20 years, or until drones take over for you? Or is it just something that, hey, I'm looking for a little bit of a side income, what can I do? So in case you missed it, here are the 6 things that we talked about. If you have any other comments, hop on in the chat. But I'm going to give the channel update here in just a second. So here are the 6 things I recommend if you're just getting started in this. 1, you need to have cash on hand for car repairs, or save up the first $500 to $1,000 you make and just set it aside. Don't touch it, because you're going to need it almost certainly at some point in time, and it'll probably be at the most inopportune time for you. Also, try to have a second vehicle available if you're more than one person. 2, you need to consider if you're going to do this full-time or part-time. It's going to be hard, if not impossible, to do this as a full-time income in most markets, I believe. Now, I'm not saying there's exceptions, but I'm not saying there's not exceptions. There are exceptions to that, but generally it's going to be hard to do. Where your final delivery drop-off location is just as important as dollars per hour and dollars per mile, because if you have to double your way back just to get another order, then you cut both of those things in half. Customer service matters. Look people in the eye. Be friendly. You don't have to be feeling 100% to provide good customer service to other people. Optimum strategy in your market is going to take time. You need to learn your market, and you need to relearn your market. Be testing things that you think you knew once upon a time, and see if they've changed. See if new restaurants have popped up. See if new people have moved into an area that are better tippers. See if your better tippers moved out of an area and now it's not as good of a tipping zone. So constantly be learning and relearning. And then finally, every penny matters. Look for ways to increase your tips by being polite, following directions in apps. Look for ways to get cash back on apps like Upside. Again, affiliate link down in the description below. If you haven't signed up yet, I would love to have you be a part of our next video and doing that. So those are the 6 steps that I would highly recommend. Channel update, not too much. We released a little video this morning for Christian gig workers. So if you're a follower of Jesus and you want kind of some extra little biblical advice, we just put out a short little, I don't know, 5 to 10 minute video on Jonah this morning. So if that interests you, you can go see that. I need to get the next video of the ratings climb up, hopefully this week. So I've already accomplished it, but I did a ratings climb starting at like 16%, working all the way up to get it the platinum tier on DoorDash. And so I kind of chronicled all of that, recorded all that footage of how to do that on earn by time while still trying to keep your dollars per mile and dollars per hour up if you're looking to move up to platinum tier. And I'm not going to tell you you should or shouldn't do platinum tier, but my recommendation is you need to at least give it a 1-month trial. And I would recommend that you do it and you see some of the results coming out of some of the markets I'm seeing are great. Like other results are not as good, but you're not going to know that unless you try it out in your own market and with your own strategies and see if it works. I am still up in the air. I can personally say I don't think it's any better than what the old system was, but I don't know if I could get anywhere close to what I would need to get from DoorDash if I wasn't. And you don't have to deal with the scheduling. So I'm working on trying to get some sponsors for this channel so we can take on some other challenges. If you feel like, hey, I like what's here and some of the challenges and stuff we've taken on, we do also have a Patreon in the description below. You can sign up there either for free or on a variety of different paid tiers. And the more patrons that we get, the more things we can try. So one of the biggest strategies we've talked about on here that I want to try, but it's kind of risky. So like this is why I'm trying to get sponsors for this channel. So you can reach out through the Patreon right now. I need to get an email set up soon, but right now you can reach out through Patreon if you are interested in being a sponsor or your company or something like that wants to sponsor us. But I want to try, what would it be like if I got to Platinum Dasher, and of course I'm already there, schedule my entire week out, cherry pick only the best of the best offers Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but then be completely scheduled out so that way I can, because while you're Platinum Dasher, you can schedule your 6 to 7 days out and then go and then take everything Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like just take everything and try to get back up to Platinum. Is it doable? You know, so you'd probably have to, after cherry picking all weekend, my normal acceptance rate would probably be like between like 18 to 30%. Depends on the weekend, but that's usually where I would come out at the end of a weekend. So if I was like at 18% acceptance rate, a lot of that would drop off. I mean, I'd have to probably do 60 straight orders Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Can you get in 15 orders a day in 4 days to then get Platinum Dasher again for the following Friday? Maybe. I would love to try it out, but I just can't. I can't afford to try it out right now. So that is why your likes, your comments, your subscribes, trying to help us get this channel monetized is important, as well as if you're in the position you want to support us through Patreon. We're trying to build a nice Patreon team here because I have both some fun challenges I really want to do, as well as just really digging into the weeds here. And I'm not one who wants to say, oh, well, DoorDash put out tiers and I don't like it, so I'm going to quit. No, I'm one who wants to say, DoorDash put out this new system. There's got to be some loopholes in here that we can exploit to maximize our earnings and minimize the bad orders we have to take and the wasted time we have to do. But I can't afford to do it. I'm not in the position that I can afford to do it on myself. So that's what we're trying to build this channel for. Cairo, hey, welcome. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you dropping by. Of course, I remember you. It's fun seeing familiar faces start to show up multiple times. It's been a really cool part of this process, and I appreciate each and every one of you who's watching this either live or in the future. Again, if you have questions about being a restaurant delivery driver that I didn't answer, please add those either live or in the future comments. As well as if you have other tips, like what would you say, even if you're not, because I know sometimes people are like, well, I don't deliver anymore, but you might still have some wisdom to share with other people that would say, hey, this would help you. So if you've got some advice for new drivers, you can comment that down below. And like I said, I think I'm going to probably recut this into a long form video as well. But I'm not seeing any pushback on these things from you guys, which makes me think like, okay, this is probably some good stuff here, but I would love to hear anything else. And we'll maybe put this out. Like I want to be real with you guys that picking up a bag of food from McDonald's and delivering it is not hard. We all know that, right? No one out there is going to convince you that that's a hard job to do. But the mental side of dealing with all of this, the physical side of trying to deal with car repairs and figuring out like how much is worth it. Some of you say it's not, and some of you are probably out there. I mean, I know I've heard stories of people who just their car couldn't handle the abuse that it takes relative to the income they were earning, and it just was no longer worth it. And there's certainly times that I've asked that question myself: Is it really worth it, all the wear and tear on my car, especially since we're a single family, like a single car family, that we use it for more than just this? Like when the car goes in the shop, like we're stuck for a day or two, or we have to call an Uber, and like it's like, you know, that if you have to call an Uber to get somewhere, there's $20 to $25 like out the window. Or you're gonna rent a car. If you rent a car for even if you can get like $40-50 a day, okay, well that's 2 to 3 extra hours of delivery work just to pay for the car in the first place. Sure, you don't have to deal with the wear and tear, but like this isn't the job itself is easy, but to do this job to make significant chunks of money is hard. And I think there's that nuance in this conversation that gets missed, right? Because your trolls are like, get a real job, like as if being a delivery service is not a real job. Like, would you say the same thing to a mailman or a UPS driver? Get a real job? No, we all know, we understand this is a real job. That's not the issue. Where you stand on tipping culture, that's not really the issue, especially if you can cherry pick and make good decisions on that. That's not the issue either. The issue is what you make worth what it takes from you? And that's really only a question that you can answer for yourself. And because I don't know, and I don't know your market. I kind of know my market, and of course, every time I think I have my market mastered, then some curveball comes, or more often, the apps throw you a curveball, right? Like, if you talk to me January, February, I was like, man, that was like peak for me, because I had the catering program. I was getting 3 to 5 catering orders per day. Like, seriously, per day. Now, I know that would go down in the summer here, but I would get like 2 to 3 at lunch most days and 3 or 4 for supper. Like, it was crazy, and it was relatively easy. And yeah, some of the catering orders were longer drives, but it just didn't matter. And I mean, you can see, you go back to my very first, I think it's my very first long form on here, and my $500 in one day on New Year's Day. I made $500 on New Year's Day this year in about 16 hours. Like, go look at that video, and it's mind-blowing how easy that day was, right? But DoorDash couldn't leave a good thing alone for me. And just because it's a good thing for you in your market today doesn't mean it's going to be a good thing for you in the future. So, thank you all so much. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you've hung on this far, I would appreciate if you hit that subscribe button before you go. We are on our way. We're really close. Oh, yeah, the other channel update. So we're at 481 subscribers going into the stream. I can't ever see the numbers until afterwards here. We're 481. So we're 19 subscribers away from 500, which was goal one. Goal two is to get to 3,000 total watch hours as a group. In other words, that doesn't count shorts. That's just on long form videos and live streams. So we're trying to get to 3,000 hours. We just crossed 1,500 hours, which is the halfway point. So all I want to ask you, and you can comment this down below live or on replay, what videos do you want me to make? What are things that you want to see? What are questions you have? What are pain points you have? Because, as always, I'm here to serve you. I want to be able to do this YouTube thing in combination with delivery as a full-time thing. And I want to keep producing things that will help you, as well as help get this channel to where it needs to go to be able to provide the income for me to take care of my family. That's kind of the primary goal, and I'm very upfront with all of you about it. I'm not here to beg you for money. Um, I'm just here to say that is a goal of this channel, and I want to do that with you so we can also train you eventually. And I'm starting. I just started a series this week about, is it too late to start on YouTube? I want to be able to start to teach you, because coming into this, I had no YouTube experience in terms of doing it as an actual side hustle. I've posted videos on YouTube on a variety of channels over the years, but if I believe that we need a lot more creators to come into the YouTube world, not less. I think even in this gig delivery world, we need a lot more voices, and we need a lot more people who will be challenging but encouraging, and less on just focusing on negativity and how these apps are broken, and more about how do we overcome these broken apps. And that's what I want it to be about, and I want to raise up a group of people who want to talk more about this and flood this, because I think there's a way that eventually we could get to the ears of at least one of these companies and say, look, we've got a better solution. I've just been brainstorming with a friend recently, like, what would our dream app for food restaurant delivery be in a way that actually could be viable, like that you could bring it to the market, that you could present it to a restaurant and say, here's what we want. So you want me to share? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to share this idea. Otherwise, I'll hold it for another video. But I see a few of you are on still hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to give a couple of things that I've just been brainstorming about. I won't give you all the details, but if not, or give a thumbs up if you're watching this on replay. If you want me to cover this in the future, maybe we'll cover it sometime this week. But I've got some ideas of what I think it could look like, and eventually we could bring a proposal either to a current company or to another company that wants to get involved. We need a disruptor in this game that changes everything so that it is no longer a tip-based service. Okay? Now, I'm not about getting rid of tips. I'm just about tips being the primary income. I would love to figure out a way that we could create something and create a proposal to a company or something along the lines that it is fee based up front and tips for appreciation only. And so I don't know if I have the solution to it, but I want to have these conversations and everything. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you get the chance, just find a playlist from our stream and just play it in the background and listen to old videos while you're working, while you're delivering. Any and every 10 minutes, 5 minutes of view time that you can give us absolutely helps us. I am looking forward to a day, hopefully in the next, I don't know, do we want to set a goal? Let me do a little research, see how quickly we're accruing watch hours here. I was kind of thinking by the end of July, because that gives us about 6 to 8 weeks here, right? I don't know, where are we? Today's the 9th of June. So we got 21, yeah, 21 plus 31, it's 52. It gives us almost 8 weeks to get 1,500 watch hours. So that's how many watch hours per week? That's about less than 200. We'll call it 200 watch hours per week. 7 days a week, so we'll call it 30 watch hours a day. So we need to get 30 watch hours a day every day for the next 8 weeks to, and of course, I'm assuming that our subscribers are going to be there, because our goal is to have our goal is to be to our 500 subscribers. Honestly, my goal is to have them by Saturday. Like when we meet next Sunday night, my goal is that we're at 500 subscribers. So hopefully with the content and the lives, we can get there. So any way that you can help this channel, any way that you can help, we appreciate it. And just the time that you've spent watching, if you've made it through all this rambling up till now, I see there's a bunch of you on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Even on a day like today where I'm like tired and I'm kind of worn out, I appreciate you and have enjoyed being with you tonight. Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow night, Monday night at 10 p.m.